Okay, boxing fans, we are talking about the result. James Degale beating Andre Dirrell for the IBF super middleweight title of the world. He is now the first ever British Olympic gold medalist to win a world title. He has made history. It was a tough fight, but he shone when it mattered. Paul, first of all, starting with you. What did you reckon about the fight?
It was a fight of two halves, really, wasn't it?
Mm.
Degale started brilliantly, better than anyone could have hoped for. I thought he was going to get the stoppage at one point. He flattened Dirrell. I thought it was over in that second round. But fair play to Dirrell. I gave him a lot of stick before the fight, saying he had no heart and that he quit when the going got tough. And he made me look absolutely stupid. He really proved me wrong. He showed heart, he showed determination, and he dragged himself back into the fight. So fair play to him. But I do think the right person won. I do think Degale just about nicked it on the cards. I think he just did enough, even though he did switch off at times.
Yeah. Ryan, what were your thoughts on the whole fight?
Yeah, like Paul, I think it was a fight of two halves. DeGale won the first. I gave him the first 5 or 6 rounds, and I think I gave Dirrell the next 6 rounds. So I think Dirrell might have won rounds 1 or 4 or both, 1 and 4, and I think he won the second half of the fight. So I scored it about 1-1-5 to 1-1-1 to DeGale, but I think you could have scored a close win to Dirrell as well, depending on how many of the close rounds you gave him. So yeah, I thought overall it was a fight of two halves, but there were a couple of rounds where either guy could have edged it. So it was a close fight, very close.
Yeah. You see, I scored the fight just about to the Gale, not by much. I think I was almost in agreement with the judges. Well, two of them, sorry. What happened is I saw round one to Dirrell. Round two was obviously 10-7 to DeGale. I give DeGale round three. Round four I give DeGale. Round five I give to Dirrell. And then from round six to round 10 I give all of those to Dirrell. And then round 11 and 12 I give both to DeGale. And that roughly, if my mathematics are adding up correct, but this is like rough, adds up to exactly 114, 112. Correct?
Hmm.
So it was a very close fight. The knockdowns made a difference, and that's what it was. In round two, the round two made a difference. DeGale dropped Dirrell like a sack of shit, and Andre did well getting up from that and trying to continue. But one thing I will say is there was a third knockdown possibly at the very end of the fight, at the end of the round, on round two, where the referee just went out as a slip. And it wasn't a slip, was it? Because it was the same as the second knockdown. What did you guys think about that, if you can remember at all? Did you see it as two knockdowns or three?
No, I've got no problem with that being called a slip, personally. Um, like I said, Degale started brilliantly, didn't he?
Hmm.
I think it was the first knockdown. He absolutely knocked him off his feet.
Yeah, like a
It
sack of
wasn't just a
shit.
knock. Yeah, it wasn't just a knockdown. The guy went flat on his back, and I thought he wasn't going to get up at that point. But there. Well done to Dirrell. He did get up. He proved me wrong. I said he quit, and when he got hurt, and he didn't. He did the exact opposite. So fair play to him on that. And there was no controversy with the ref, in my opinion. I know the ref was a bit inexperienced, and a lot of people were bringing up the fact that this ref hadn't had many big fights before. But think he done just fine. I don't think he got any of the big calls wrong, and he didn't favour any fighter, which is what we want, really.
That's right, yeah. Ryan, what did you think about the knockdowns, or possible of two or three? Do you think they were all fine?
Well, I saw two obvious knockdowns, and then the third one I thought was questionable. So overall, it didn't have an impact on the fight. If it had been a draw, I still don't think the third knockdown was really that obvious for it to have definitely been counted. So I didn't have a problem with there only being two knockdowns.
Okay. So where does to get? In fact, do you guys have any questions you want to throw in first about the fight in general, or do you want to move on to where they both go next?
Um,
Both of you seem to have questions. Go on, Paul first.
Why do you think Degale switched off in the middle rounds? Do you think he was gassed, or do you think he got instructions from his corner to take it easy? Because it was really strange what he done.
It was very strange. Honestly, I don't know. I think he's just a bit of a lazy fighter. To be honest, he seems to switch off inside fights. In the second half of fights, if things aren't going his way, he doesn't throw that high level of punches, which I think he should do. But okay, I'm not sure. Honestly, I think that he was just. I don't think he was gassed. I just think he is a lazy fighter. If that makes sense.
Well, I'll come in now. So yeah, I thought that was a bit odd how he appeared to gas. Let's just say he gassed for the sake of it. I thought that was quite odd how he started so strong and then he just disappeared in the second half of the fight. But then I thought that might have been a combination of the fact that he was in with his toughest opponent to date and he threw everything at him for those first 5 or 6 rounds, combined with the fact that he might have felt he was, 6 points clear going into the second half of the fight and then started to coast, which is something that De La Hoya did a lot of times, which cost him a few big fights. So he might have just felt as though he was doing better than he actually was. So maybe that explains why he coasted at the end of the fight. But he did have a pretty good round 11 and 12, and I think that solidified the victory along with the 2 knockdowns. So yeah, I thought it was a little bit odd why he wasn't going for it in those middle rounds, but overall I still felt he deserved the win.
Mm-hmm. So I don't think that he was gassed. I just think he's lazy. Ryan thinks he was gassed. What do you think, Paul?
I think it was a bit of everything, really. I think he did pour a lot into the early rounds, and when he didn't get the stoppage, he probably thought, okay, I'll save a bit for later on now. I won't waste my energy. I also think it was probably his corner telling him that he was a mile ahead and to take it easy. And I also think it's what you said. He naturally just isn't an explosive fighter. He's always had fights where he lies on the ropes and doesn't do a lot for certain rounds. So all of that very nearly cost him a fight. And I think he can't be doing that against fighters like Carl Froch or Andre Ward if he ever fights them. It's a bad habit. He's definitely got to get out of his system.
That's right. Maybe, yeah. What was your question if you had one, Ryan?
Well, I didn't have another question, but I would just say that he wants to be careful with that sort of, those sort of tactics in his next bunch of fights, because he could have easily have lost rounds, say 1 and 4. And like I said, I felt that Dirrell did enough to questionably get a close victory. So, I thought Degale deserved to win, but had Dirrell won by a point or two, I wouldn't have called it a robbery. So he wants to be careful, Degale.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What was my next question was about. Actually, I'll go to Dirrell and we'll end on Degale. Now that both Dirrell brothers are irrelevant, see how I did there. Where do they both go from here, or is that it?
I'll start.
Yeah, you start.
I don't know where either one of them could go from here. They're obviously not going to fight each other. If they were brothers, I think them fighting each other would be a good fight, and it would make sense for the both of them. But it's obviously not going to happen.
Actually, I don't know. You never know where PBC will go. Because I just want to stop you there, because the idea of brother versus brother, that would sell, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there's no way either they're going to agree to do that, though, man.
If the money's right, if that money's right,
No way, man. No way. No, I don't think so. Even if they offer them the world. I think it just depends on what Heyman can pull out the bag for them now.
Maybe.
Is Heyman going to... Go on.
No, go on.
Is Heyman going to care about either of the brothers now? They both lost fights that he didn't want them to lose.
Yeah.
Anthony Dirrell lost to Badu Jack when he was a massive favourite and no one expected him to lose, and he did lose. He blew it, lost his title. Andre Dirrell's just lost to Degale, even though Al Heyman made a big bid to get the fight in America for him. What was it, $2 million or something?
So I think
I
actually think it was more than that, wasn't it?
More than that. He made a big purse bid to get the fight in America, and now he's went and lost as well. I don't think anyone would blame Al Heyman if he just washed his hands of these guys now. And if that happened, I certainly wouldn't feel sorry for them. I'm not a fan of either brother. I respect them both a lot more, especially Andre now after that fight. But am I interested in seeing them fight again against top-level guys in the super middleweight division? Not really, to be honest. And I think if either guy gets a title fight again, they're both very, very fortunate.
That's right.
It wouldn't surprise me if both guys fade away now and are irrelevant, as you say.
That's right. Very possible. Another thing is maybe they'll move up, into a division where I suppose they've got maybe, I wouldn't say a better chance, I'll just say they've got a chance. You know what I mean? A different day. It's a different place for them both, but, who knows? There's Al Heyman fighters up there. There's not really much Al Heyman can do because he's not going to fight. I mean, no Al Heyman fighter is going to fight the idea of Andre Ward because he won't work with Andre Ward because he's with that other pleb. What's his name? He's with Al Heyman. No, he's not. He's with Rock Nation. That makes sense. And Froch, no, none of the Germans. So I don't know. What do you think, Ryan? Where do the Irrelevant brothers go from here?
Well, I don't see them moving up because, most fighters move up either because they're struggling to make weight, which I don't know if they are. Let's just presume they're not. Or because they've already done enough at the weight and they see better challenges for them at the above weight. And sometimes better challenges just means easier challenges. But there's no easier challenges at light heavyweight. So I think they'll stay at super middleweight and just be irrelevant because if they moved up to light heavyweight, there's no one there that they could feasibly beat. No, they won't beat Kovalev. They won't beat any of the fighters there. So I think they'll stay at super middleweight for the foreseeable future. But with Dirrell, I can't see him going on for much longer. And Andre Dirrell and Anthony Dirrell, he's probably got a few more years left in him. But I don't think either of them are going to become legitimate champions. I think that's it now. They've got to the level they can compete at, and that's it. Yeah.
So that's that for them boys then.
That's it.
Shit's over. Well, the last question is obviously where does your man James Degale go from here? It's a brave world out there for James Degale. Big fights out there for him. Names such as George Groves, Carl Froch, Gennady Golovkin, Andre Ward. There's a lot of guys out there. Which guys do you like, guys? Come on, Paul. Bring them to me.
Sky box office awaits. He'll be a
Damn
box
right.
office. He'll be a pay-per-view
yeah.
fighter now.
Damn right, yeah, he will be.
Yep, every fight Degale will be on now will be pay-per-view. He's obviously the plan is for him to wait around for George Groves. George Groves is going to fight Badou Jack later on in the year. Most people expect Badou Jack to win, George Groves to win, and George Groves versus James Degale in a unification fight would sell out Wembley, and that's obviously the plan for all parties involved. But in the meantime, I think he'll just take a few relatively easy defences just to wait around for Groves. One name I'll throw at you, and don't call me crazy for this because I can genuinely see it happening, is I reckon we'll see James Degale in his first defence, his voluntary defence against Rocky Fielding. And I'll tell you why now. Rocky Fielding is top 10 with the IBF. He's got a fight with Brian Vera coming up. If he beats Brian Vera, it's a name on his record. Eddie Hearn and Sky will do the Brit versus Brit for the world title on pay-per-view shtick, like they always do. We'll get that on pay-per-view before the end of the year. I'm calling it now. Degale will fight Rocky Fielding in an easy defence because it's a voluntary defence and it qualifies, and Sky are desperate for a pay-per-view, and a Brit versus Brit for a world title is a pay-per-view. That's what's going to happen with James Degale. And in the long run, he'll fight Groves at Wembley, providing Groves gets a title.
Mm-hmm. That sounds very interesting. The only thing is, he's quite a far distance away, Rocky Field, and I thought, but
Yeah,
maybe I'm not going to call you.
Frankie Gavin's quite a far distance behind Kell Brook. And
Yeah, if Frankie Gavin can get the shot, I guess anyone can get the shot. So you may be right, or maybe you never know. Maybe Smiga pulls it out the bag.
Oh, don't say that, man! Don't say that.
All right, Ryan, go on, talk to us about where does James Degale go from here? There's a lot of names. I've
Well,
noticed none of you have said the word Triple G.
yeah, no one's going to fight Triple G unless they absolutely have to. They're in different divisions, so unless both of them keep cleaning up, and then they've probably both got half a dozen fights ahead of them that aren't each other, so they won't fight unless they absolutely have to. So yeah, I think that the Groves rematch is the obvious one, like Paul said. That's what they're aiming to do. The British public love that sort of British. Fight. They love, Ben Eubank and stuff like that, Lewis, Bruno. So they want to see that fight. The Froch fight probably won't be made, but if it can do, then Froch Degale is another one. But yeah, like Paul said, Fielding or even Callum Smith, both of whom are, a bit far away from a world title shot. But like Paul said, you only need Fielding has won, 20 fights on the trot. He's still undefeated. So, guys can get world title shots just on the fact that they keep winning alone. Doesn't matter who they beat. So I think that's one. Shudinov, who recently beat Sturm, that's another possibility. It would be a unification as well. So that's a possibility. And
No, it wouldn't.
And what?
Wait there, go back to that, Paul. What was you saying?
No, it wouldn't. That belt doesn't mean anything. It's not a unification. Just thought I'd clarify.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it's not a relevant one. It's a ordinary title, but
Yeah, we were Ryan. Fucking hell.
yeah. And what about something like Chavez Jr. Because he's been linked to Froch a lot. I know he's just coming off of a loss at light heavyweight, but he might decide to go down and go for that fight. So that could be interesting.
Damn, I'll tell you something. That's an interesting fight. Because if he switches off like he did in the second half of the fight against Chavez, he's going to let Chavez back in that fight, isn't he?
Yeah.
Degale boxes Chavez's ears off the fat bastard.
I agree. No, I agree with you. I agree for the first 6. But if he does what he did from 6 to 10 in that fight,
but
that could be a fight. That could be a fight for Chavez.
But my opinion is like Paul said, he's going to have some easy title defenses.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I think he might fight some other Americans who will probably lose to him, which means he'll beef up his record against Americans. So there's guys like Jalen Love. He's lost recently, but he's American. Maybe even Anthony Dirrell lost recently.
Saki Albika.
Another one. And who was the other one I was just thinking of?
Saki Albika.
Yeah, and what about Edwin Rodriguez? He was on the undercard tonight.
Light heavyweight, he was fighting now.
Oh, but he might be fighting at light heavyweight, but he's been a career super middleweight, so he might come down. So I think, it's odd that he was fighting on the undercard. Well, not odd, but sometimes when, the undercard fight is often the guy who, the main event fights next. So I think maybe in Rodriguez.
Maybe Felix Sturm, just to get a name. And I think Sturm might take it as well because he's just desperate for the opportunity.
One thing I was thinking though was I was hoping that maybe Triple G was going to offer Sturm a fight and just say, "Would you like a last shot at the title?" And
I don't want to see that. I like Felix Sturm, man. I don't want to see him go out like that.
I know, man. But I mean, I'm trying to think of it from Triple G's point of view. I'd watch that fight if it happened. But that's another story, I suppose. That's another video. But by the way, just on the undercard, we'll quickly throw this in there. Spike O'Sullivan knocked this other fool out in 2 rounds. What do you think of that?
Fair play to him. I hope he fights Chris Eubank Jr. soon.
What about if he doesn't? What about Triple G?
This is Spike O'Sullivan.
Yeah.
I think Spike O'Sullivan won't be kissing anyone for a long time. That happens.
Maybe, yeah. Well, if Triple G fights 5 times in this year and fights Spike O'Sullivan for his 5th time, I wouldn't be bothered by it. What about you, Brian?
Nah, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, just me then. We'll call it there. So, anyone want their last say on it on either fighter.
Get in, Chunky. Well done, mate.
Irrelevant.
Yeah. No, I think both of them gave a good fight.
Oh, fuck off, right? You're supposed to say a word association game here. I've just said irrelevant. He said getting chunky. You said
I say both had good fights.
bullshit.